Right now, somewhere beneath 2 miles of pitch-black, crushing ocean water, and then another 5 miles beneath that, buried inside solid rock, there is a pocket of liquid energy that has been sitting there, untouched, for over 60 million years. No sunlight has ever reached it. No human has ever seen it. And yet, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how a small army of engineers, ships, and machines reaches down through all of that darkness, all of that pressure, and all of that rock, and pulls it out. Not just pulls it out, but moves it, cleans it, stores it, and eventually pumps it into a ship so massive it's longer than 3 football fields stacked end to end. This is the real, step-by-step journey of crude oil, from the bottom of the ocean to one of the largest man-made vessels on Earth. And once you see how insane this process actually is, you will never look at a gas station the same way again. Before a single drop of oil is ever touched, before a single drill bit ever spins, there is a ship, usually a long, narrow, oddly quiet vessel, dragging what looks like a giant fishing net behind it for miles across open ocean. But it's not fishing for anything alive. It's towing streamers packed with sensitive underwater microphones called hydrophones, sometimes dozens of these cables spread out behind a single ship in a massive fan formation stretching across several square miles of sea. Every few seconds, an air gun fires a blast of compressed air into the water, sending a shock wave straight down through the ocean and deep into the rock layers below the seabed. That shock wave bounces back up, off different layers of rock, sand, salt, and stone, and the hydrophones catch every single echo. Supercomputers back on land then stitch together millions of these echoes into a 3-dimensional map of what's hiding beneath the ocean floor. A map that can show, with startling precision, whether there's a pocket of oil trapped down there, how deep it is, how big it might be, and whether it's even physically possible to reach. This single step can take months, sometimes years, and it happens long before anyone commits the hundreds of millions of dollars it costs to actually try drilling into that spot. Once a promising site is confirmed, an entirely different kind of vessel shows up, a drill ship, or a semi-submersible drilling rig, essentially a floating industrial city built for one purpose: punching a hole through miles of ocean and rock. These structures can be over 750 feet long and weigh more than 100,000 tons. Yet they have to hold themselves in an almost impossibly exact position, sometimes for months, directly above a target point on the seafloor that's barely wider than a large room. In water this deep, there's no way to anchor with a traditional chain and hook system, so the rig relies on something called dynamic positioning, a network of GPS receivers, underwater acoustic beacons, and multiple massive thrusters mounted on the hull, all controlled by computers, making thousands of tiny adjustments every minute. Wind pushes the rig one way, currents push it another, waves try to rock it constantly, and through all of that chaos, the vessel has to stay locked within a few feet of its target, 24 hours a day, because everything that happens next depends entirely on that precision. With the rig locked in position, the crew begins lowering a massive steel tube called a marine riser down through the water column, section by section, each piece bolted onto the last, slowly extending like a telescope reaching toward the seafloor. In ultra-deep water, this riser can stretch down more than 2 miles before it even touches bottom, and once it does, it connects to a piece of equipment called the blowout preventer, an enormous stack of valves, some as tall as a 2-story building, sitting directly on the wellhead at the seafloor. This is arguably the single most important safety device in the entire operation. Its job is to instantly seal the well shut if pressure ever spikes out of control, acting like an emergency shutoff valve capable of literally shearing through solid steel pipe in seconds if it has to. Only after this riser is connected and pressure tested, only after every valve is confirmed working, does the actual drilling begin. Because everything below this point is now a sealed, controlled pathway straight down into the earth. Once the well is finally ready, the real payoff begins, actually pulling the crude oil up and out. And here's something that might surprise you. In a lot of these wells, nobody has to pump anything at all, at least not at first. The pressure trapped underground is so massive that the oil practically forces itself upward on its own, the same way soda explodes out of a bottle the second you crack the cap. This is called natural flow, and it's basically nature doing the heavy lifting for free. But that pressure doesn't last forever. As a reservoir gets drained over months and years, engineers have to step in with something called artificial lift. And one of the smartest tricks in their playbook is gas injection, where they actually pump gas back down into the well to push the remaining oil upward, kind of like blowing air into one end of a straw to force liquid out the other end. But here's the catch. What comes rushing up to the surface isn't clean oil ready to sell. It's a messy mix of crude oil, natural gas, water, and sand, all tangled together. That raw mixture flows straight into a piece of equipment called a three-phase separator, a massive tank-like vessel that uses gravity and pressure to pull everything apart. The gas rises to the top, the water sinks to the bottom, and the oil settles in the middle, finally coming out the other side clean, tested, and ready for the next stage of its journey. So now there's clean processed oil sitting there, but where does it actually go while everyone waits for a tanker to show up? This is where one of the most underrated machines in the entire oil industry comes in. The FPSO, short for Floating Production, Storage, and Offloading Vessel. The name sounds technical, but the concept is simple. Imagine a ship the length of several football fields that isn't just a boat, it's a factory, a warehouse, and a loading dock, all rolled into one, anchored permanently out at sea near the oil field. Inside its massive hull, this vessel can store well over 1 million barrels of oil at a time, just sitting there safely until a tanker arrives to take it away. Every single one of those storage tanks is wired with sensors, constantly tracking temperature, pressure, and oil levels, feeding real-time data straight into a control room where engineers watch it around the clock, every single day of the year. There's also a system called custody transfer metering, which sounds boring but is actually critical. It measures, down to the smallest possible unit, exactly how much oil is moving in and out. Why does this matter so much? Because a tiny measurement error here isn't just an inconvenience. It can mean millions of dollars lost or gained in a single transfer. The FPSO is the bridge between everything that happened underground and everything that's about to happen at the surface. And once its tanks are finally full, something starts appearing on the horizon. A dark shape, slowly growing larger. This is the moment the entire platform has been building toward. A massive shape appears far out at sea and begins creeping closer, hour by hour, toward the FPSO. This isn't some ordinary boat pulling up to a dock. This is a crude oil tanker, and its scale is almost impossible to picture until you see it. Some of these ships stretch past 1,000 feet long, essentially a small floating city drifting across open water. Getting a vessel this enormous, safely lined up next to an offshore facility, is nowhere near as simple as parking a car. The tanker's captain stays in constant radio contact with the platform's control room the entire time, both sides tracking speed, direction, wind, and ocean current down to the smallest detail. Because steering something this size is a completely different challenge than anything on land. One small miscalculation, 1 second of hesitation, and you're looking at a disaster that could damage the environment, cost a fortune, and put lives at risk. That's exactly why a specialized marine crew handles every single movement, every angle checked, every distance measured, nothing left to chance. Once the tanker finally settles into position, the mooring process begins, where heavy-duty lines are used to lock the ship firmly in place, strong enough that even a violent storm couldn't shake it loose. With the tanker fully secured and every system checked and rechecked, one final connection gets made. A massive flexible hose links the FPSO to the tanker, and that hose is about to become the pathway for crude oil's very last leg of the journey. Now comes the moment this entire operation has been building toward from the very beginning. The actual transfer of crude oil from the FPSO into the tanker. The control room gives the green light. Powerful cargo pumps roar to life, and oil begins flowing steadily from storage straight into the tanker's massive holding tanks. This is not some casual liquid transfer. It's a precisely controlled operation, moving thousands of gallons every single minute, with zero room for error. Because crude oil is extremely flammable, there's an intense focus on safety during this entire process. No sparks, no open flames, nothing that could ever trigger an ignition. A dedicated transfer team watches every valve, every connection, and every sensor without ever letting their attention drift, because the stakes here are enormous. One by one, the tanker's cargo compartments fill up, and each one is measured with extreme precision, not just for safety, but because this exact measurement determines how much money changes hands between buyer and seller. Every single drop counts. Once the required amount has been transferred, the crew finalizes all the paperwork, shipping documents, quality certificates, quantity reports, everything needed to make this cargo official. Then the hose disconnects. The mooring lines release one by one, and the tanker slowly begins pulling away from the FPSO, engines rumbling to life, water churning behind it as it turns toward the open sea. Sitting inside that tanker now is crude oil that the entire modern world depends on, the raw material behind gasoline, plastic, and countless everyday products. As that fully loaded tanker cuts through the waves toward a refinery somewhere across the ocean, it's worth stopping for a second to really think about what just happened. At the refinery, this exact crude oil is going to be broken down and transformed into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and the raw materials behind plastics and countless products you use every single day. That plastic bottle you drank from, the tires on your car, even the case protecting your phone, all of it traces back to this same crude oil, pulled from thousands of feet beneath the ocean. And behind every step of this journey are real people. Workers who spend weeks at a time away from home, engineers who design structures capable of surviving 100-foot waves, and technicians keeping every single system running 24 hours a day. This entire process has become so normal, so invisible, that most people never think about it. But it is not simple, and it is not automatic. It's the result of extraordinary engineering, enormous risk, and constant human effort happening far out at sea, completely out of sight. So the next time you're standing at a gas pump, take 1 second to think about everything that just happened before that fuel ever reached you. A journey that started miles beneath the ocean floor.